The first law of thermodynamics is basically that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So it's the law of conservation of energy. So the big picture to me would be it makes sense to have natural resource energy priced in digital energy. I think of Bitcoin as digital energy. And so from the law of conservation of energy, that makes sense. You keep the loop closed. Pricing something in fiat is like pricing something in a ruler or measuring something in a ruler that continuously changes, right? I mean, the government's changed the length of a ruler. So you can't rely on that unit of account. Ultimately, I believe there will be a time when everything else is priced in Bitcoin, and that is the truest measure of account, Bitcoin.
In the recent months, while U.S. investors were preoccupied with issues like inflation, the Federal Reserve's quick interest rate increases, the recession, the regional banking crisis, and most recently, the debt ceiling, movements were taking place in a number of different parts of the world, all with the great intention of ending the era of King Dollar. One event that stands out as being particularly noteworthy was Chinese President Xi Jinping's 3-day state visit to Russia, during which time he held cordial discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin as a sign of unity. Less than 2 weeks had passed since China had succeeded in mediating a settlement that put an end to decades of antagonism between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The visit, which took place between March 20th and 22nd, took place during that time. Ali Shamkhani, a security official for Iran, and Musaid ibn Mohammed, a national security advisor for Saudi Arabia, stunned the world on March 10th by signing an accord that ended years of antagonism between the two nations and established diplomatic ties. Many people believe that China's accomplishment in mediating a peace agreement between Persian Shiites and Arab Sunnis is just another indication that the United States is losing ground in the Middle East. The East Asian nation continues to jeopardize key U.S.-centric partnerships and agreements, as it moves closer to realizing its aim of establishing a multipolar world order. The petrodollar, one of such agreements, has been in existence for more than 50 years. The petrodollar system, which solidified the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency, was put in place in the early 1970s after the U.S. government received assurances from Saudi Arabia that Riyadh would only accept dollars for its shipments of crude oil in return for financial assistance. The petrodollar system was established in 1975 after other OPEC members copied it. However, that system is already in jeopardy, and experts are confident that it's just a matter of time before everything collapses. To start, China and the BRICS coalition have succeeded in influencing Saudi Arabia, Iran, and 4 other OPEC members. In addition, the coalition has made it quite obvious that its primary goal at the moment is to undermine the dominance of the dollar. Right now, it appears that the coalition is more interested in removing the dollar from power than in finding a good successor. There is scant evidence that they would accept the Chinese yuan or another member state's fiat currency, especially in light of the member states' extreme variety. Because of this, renowned Bitcoin strategist and analyst Greg Foss thinks the dominant crypto asset will emerge as the victor in this debate. In a recent illuminating conversation with Michelle McCary, the lead anchor and editor-in-chief at Kiko News, Foss highlighted his predictions for how Bitcoin will go from being pegged to the US dollar to becoming a viable alternative to fiat money. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enable post alerts for more content like this before listening to Foss' thorough and convincing defense of Bitcoin.
But let's start with what the petrodollar is, which is a very strategic advantage for the United States. So it's not surprising that some of the not-so-friendly nations of the United States are looking to destabilize the petrodollar. What does it mean when oil and natural gas are priced in US dollars? It means essentially that the USA can print energy. Think of that strategic advantage that has, and the flip side, the negative effects it has for a country like Russia. Russia is selling its valuable natural resource energy for US dollars that are debasing, firstly, but also that can be frozen. US Treasury assets get frozen and whatnot.
So it was selling its totally right. energy in dollars, but given the sanctions, it's now moved away from that.
There you go. But they're not the only nation that would be subject to those challenges. If we bring it back to the idea, and you did mention this, that Bitcoin is priced in fiat. fiat is just a measuring stick. Your house is priced in fiat. The value of your house hasn't really changed. In that shelter still is equally valuable today as it was 30 years ago. The only thing that's happened is the price of that house measured in US dollars has increased because of the unit of account, which is the US dollar, has decreased in value on a relative basis. So when we say that Bitcoin is priced in fiat, that's just a measuring stick. But I like to say 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. You know, there will be a time when fiat is actually priced in Bitcoin, not the flip side. Energy will maybe not be the first step because we're seeing the first steps right now, but energy will be the most important step. That will be the big event that I believe causes, you know, people to realize why Bitcoin is so darn cheap at a price that it's currently trading at today relative to where it could go, priced in fiat. Now, again, pricing something in fiat is like pricing something in a ruler or measuring something in a ruler that continuously changes, right? I mean, the government's changed the length of a ruler. So you can't rely on that unit of account. Ultimately, I believe there will be a time when everything else is priced in Bitcoin, and that is the truest measure of account, Bitcoin. If we go back to the principle that 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin, then we don't get confused with, you know, the relative trading pair. We call it a trading pair. So, you know, much like the Canadian dollar trades as a trading pair against the US dollar, the Bitcoin trades as a trading pair against the US dollar. That trading pair is on its way out, in my opinion. And that's why if you start with how about this? What is Bitcoin worth in a barrel of oil? Okay, so you have a volume of oil. How much of that barrel of oil does 1 Bitcoin buy? You've taken the US dollar out of the equation altogether. Does one Bitcoin equal, so you know, you could do the math in your head, $30,000 US per Bitcoin, 1 barrel of oil equals, you know, we're running with it, but that will change over time so that you measure Bitcoin in barrels of oil, not in fiat. Even with the development of the Bitcoin commerce, you know, you have places like El Salvador where you don't ever transact in US dollars. Now, it's only a small part of the population, but it's a toehold that will increase. So you have it increasing at the micro level. Does it happen at the macro level quickly? I don't know, but those sorts of macro events, they do happen. And when they happen, they change the whole world order. Have you ever tried to transfer a lot of gold across the international borders?
Other than that time I was smuggling.
There you go.
France.
No, well, let's just say that you could price it in gold, but that's ancient technology. And I'm not anti-gold.
But you could have gold-backed digital tokens on the block.
If you know where you're going to go from point A to point B, why take a detour? Go straight from point A to point B. Point B being price everything in a digital commodity that's transferable, portable, verifiable, everything that's beautiful about Bitcoin that you can't do with gold. I mean, how much gold currently exists in the vaults? We don't know. It's not auditable. And how much of that gold that we think exists in the vaults could be tungsten? I don't know, and I don't care. I'm not pitching gold. I am pitching Bitcoin, which is defendable by math and code, and you don't argue with that. It's proof of work, and it's the law of conservation of energy, which is nature, okay? You can't mess with mathematics, and you cannot mess with nature. Well, I have a trading expression, right? You give a target, but not a time. Because if you do both, you'll be wrong on one, right? So,
or not.
Well, you could, but I would just say it's a process, okay? So, you know, you look at my price target on Bitcoin, and then people ultimately ask, well, when's it going to get there? And I say, I can't give both. I can give a target, but not a time. I measure the target in today's dollars, and then by the time it gets there, we do the adjustment as to what it would be in today's dollars. The same thing. Why does it get to that price? Well, there's global macro events that include these types of events. I don't know when they'll happen. I'm just very comfortable projecting that they will happen. It's just the law of probabilities.
Greg Foss has made a clear and convincing case for the adoption of Bitcoin as a unit for gauging the worth of commodities, and even other fiat currencies. Even if the BRICS alliance chooses a different fiat currency, we would likely be debating the same issues in 10 or 20 years as we are now for the US dollar. What do you think of the Foss interview? Do you believe Bitcoin has the potential to unseat the dollar as the global reserve currency? Please share your thoughts and views in the space provided below. Additionally, if you enjoyed this video, please switch on post notifications and subscribe to the channel to see more of them. Thank you for watching.